is my good friend, Rachel Maurice MD. She lives in Kamloops, British Columbia. And Dr. Rachel is going to give you guys the scoop on X39. So, Dr. Rachel, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Danny. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to be here. Time is our most precious commodity, so I value that very much. So as Danny said, my name's Rachel, and I worked as an anesthesiologist in Canada for close to 20 years. I left in 2021 for medical freedom of choice for myself, not thinking that I would be gone for very long. So I started doing a lot of research on things that were confusing to me. And what I ended up unearthing was an entirely new paradigm of how the body works, which was completely different from everything I had been taught. So the whole foundation of my understanding of how the body expresses health completely transformed. And at the bottom of that was the fact that light runs every single physiologic process in the body, upstream from all the biochemistry, upstream from the physical nature. It is all run by light. So I started diving deep into light, learning all about light, red light therapy, all these amazing phototherapy and photobiomodulation tools. And what ended up happening was I came across these patches at a timely in a timely fashion because my mom's health was starting to deteriorate significantly to the point where her doctors were talking about heart surgery. Now, having spent 30 years in the hospitals, 25 of those in the operating room, I've seen every single complication under the sun, not because of any intention for it, but the nature of the system and intervention. And so I wanted my mom to avoid surgery at all costs. And it just so happened I was introduced to these patches by Diane Hunt, who was a cardiac surgical nurse for 20 years. And she was sharing with me not only stories, but investigations like echocardiograms, if people have heard that term before, ultrasounds of the heart, electrocardiograms, and telling me and showing me people who had been in heart failure, which was one of my mom's biggest problems, no longer, after 8, 10, 12 months, no longer being in heart failure. I have never seen that in my career, and neither had she, being 20 years in the cardiac surgical suite. And so as I was learning about this phototherapy, it was a no-brainer to get started. Absolutely. I prepared my mom to make sure she had patience with it because the body takes time to heal. We live in a drive-through society where surgery, you can have something done overnight, it changes. With pills, sometimes overnight it changes. And we think that's how things should work. But our body has an intelligent design and it knows what to do. It knows how to do it, but it takes time. And so I prepared her to give it a year. She's 80, she's 84 now. And I was shocked, to say the least, that we would walk regularly. She went from, in 2 weeks, going from having to stop every 2 to 3 steps to catch her breath because of her heart failure to we'd walk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And she was talking to me while she was walking, and we'd be walking on an incline, which she was always wanting to avoid before. And that, honestly, I could not understand it from the old paradigm of how I understood the body to work. And then after 3 weeks, she came to me with some lab work. I told her to go to her doctor, but her doctor lowered her thyroid medication that she had been on for over 30 years. She started, a lot of skin issues she had from being on certain medications started disappearing. Her spider veins started disappearing. Her varicose veins started diminishing. She had a glow and energy about her that was noticeable by my friends, by a lot of her friends, people that hadn't necessarily seen her for a while either. So that's my mom's story. And that is just, it made me so excited, especially because of how these patches work. There is nothing entering the body. The body emits an infrared, we emit light called biophotons. This is not anything I was taught in medicine either. We emit infrared light as well as ultraviolet, but these patches work by using that infrared light and sending signals back into the body to create physiologic changes. So phototherapy is not a new thing. It's just new in the last few decades in terms of the scientific community and the evidence and the research that has come about. So it's, in scientific terms, it's called photobiomodulation, but it's light therapy. And just like when we go outside, we all know we need to get a certain amount of ultraviolet light to make vitamin D. And we all know we go outside and we get a tan from the sunlight, from ultraviolet light. It's not the light that is causing those changes, it's the light sending signals for our body to do that. So with these patches, I started learning all about how it worked. And because honestly, from the beginning, knowing nothing was entering the body and it was just enhancing, supporting, and really boosting our own healing mechanisms, I couldn't think of something that would be better, because everything else, there was some kind of intervention which knocks everything in our bodies out of balance. And we can't always predict what imbalances are going to be affected. So these patches use our own light. Instead of like a red light panel, you plug into an outside, like an outlet, it uses our own light to cause an increase in a specific copper peptide called GHKCU. You don't have to worry about the name of that, but it's 3 amino acids, for those who want to know, glycine, histidine, and lysine, attached to a copper molecule. Now, this copper peptide is something we already have inside of us, but it declines with age. Now, I hadn't heard anything, I hadn't learned anything about this copper peptide, but when I started learning about it, people were telling me that it's a huge thing in the skincare industry. It's been there for decades because of its ability to tighten skin, reduce wrinkles, and such. And as I learned more, I found out there was 50 years of research on this peptide. So it's not anything new. It's actually why the inventor decided to go and research this molecule and figure out how to increase it in our body. And really, the incredible thing is this copper peptide resets over 4,000 genes in our genome. So what does that mean? It resets them to a younger state. And just for context, we only have around 20,000 genes in our genome. So resetting over 4,000 is a massive amount. Some people might have heard about the quote unquote benefits of red wine coming from the molecule resveratrol, which you can go to your health food store and buy in a bottle. Well, resveratrol resets 2 genes, just 2. This resets over 4,000 genes. So there are so many effects from this copper peptide. And one of those genes that it resets is the stem cell gene. So stem cells, again, what I was taught in medicine was once we stop growing after puberty, we don't really have any stem cells. That's not actually true. We do, but as we age, their ability to work declines. So why do we even need stem cells? What are stem cells? Stem cells are the cells that contain the instructions to become any cell in the body. So, okay, when we're born, we have the sperm and the egg come together and there's replication, and we need cells to replicate to create a baby and then grow through puberty. So then we stop growing. Why do we need stem cells? Well, we stop growing visibly on the outside, but on the inside, and what we don't see is we are constantly turning over cells. We have, depending on the organs, like red blood cells, every 120 days, we are producing all new red blood cells. So we have wear and tear on our body. I don't like to call our body a machine, but similar to a machine where you need to replace the parts or repair the parts, the same goes for the body. Our gut lining, ideally, we should be replacing the entire gut lining every 3 to 5 days. It doesn't really happen most of the time, but that is what should be happening. So we need stem cells to replace all of those damaged and dying cells. So the stem cells, again, not what I was taught, but by the time we are 30, half of our stem cells have gone dormant. By the time we are 60, 90% have gone dormant. So when we don't have the ability to replace and repair the cells that are damaged and dying, then that occurs much faster than being able to replace it. So we break down and we just aren't healing. That's why we don't heal as quickly. We don't recover from illness. We don't heal from any accidents or trauma. And that is what I saw on a regular basis in the hospital. So what else do these, what other genes are reset, and what else does this patch do? Because the stem cells, I mean, that's amazing on its own. People travel all over the world because they're not available in all countries to get injections for stem cells. And those cost upwards of, when you have to have 3 treatments, which is usually what's recommended, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And people do that because that is what has been shown to work, stem cell therapy. But they're invasive, there's risk, there's potential for complications. They actually don't always work. They're localized, so they don't work systemically, and they're not available to everybody. Only certain people can afford them. This technology is available to the average person. And I know one of the things that comes up on a regular basis is cost. And I see health as an investment, not a cost, because you are going to pay either for preventative health or trying to get it back now and prevent further degradation, or when you get really sick, you are going to pay for it then. So the way I look at it for myself, I am all about prevention, and it is less than, I don't drink coffee, but I know it's less than a cup of coffee or a bottle of water. But these patches also are incredible in the sense that they help reduce inflammation, and inflammation is really at the foundation of almost all chronic diseases. They help with reducing discomfort, pain, sleep. Sleep is a really big one. They increase energy. Sleep and energy are two of the foundational ways that we actually heal. So most people will say to me that their sleep is improved, and that was a huge thing for me. Ironically, when I left the hospital setting, my sleep had deteriorated, and I tried to do a lot of things that help other people. It didn't work. And now I don't wake up when my kids come home, and I used to hear a pin drop. So that was pretty miraculous. And I think you stopped the screen sharing. So I don't know if you're wanting me to continue, or you're wanting, I can hand it back to you, Danny.
No, that was great. I was just showing some of the background slides, while you were giving people details. I'll just say one thing about the cost, because I tell everybody it's the cheapest thing on the planet for what it does. I mean, when people can get this wholesale for $99.95 or less, when people find out what it really does and they actually have those results, they'd pay $995 a month for it. Some people would pay $9,000 a month for it based on what it's done for their life. It's the most inexpensive thing I've ever seen in my lifetime for what it produces and the results that people get. So the cost is not even an issue. But now tell everybody how you feel about, I said it works on everybody every time for everything if given enough time. Tell everybody how they need to see this thing with the amount of time and the patch usage.
Right. Okay. And before that, I want to say, because I don't want to forget, I want people to understand that I've spent the bulk of my life and career in allopathic medicine and steeped in it. And I've seen disease, and I've seen what the treatments that we have do to people. And I have never seen anything like this in the 30 years that I have been in medicine. So I just really want to emphasize that, because it's really profound for me. But yeah, you asked me, I agree with you, Danny. This works on everybody all the time, given enough time and given the correct inputs. And what I mean by that is we are increasing the patch is helping the body increase this copper peptide. So we have to make sure that we have the ingredients to make the copper peptide. So we have to have the glycine, the histidine, the lysine, and the copper. And copper is one thing that is very depleted in our food supply these days because of agricultural practices. So it's important to focus on making sure you get enough copper in your diet. And that's the way I go before going to supplements. But organ meat's at the top of the list. I'm sure everyone's favorite. But shellfish, seafood, avocados, I usually tell people a lot of times the best one is a square of dark chocolate, really a square, like not a whole bar. You just need one little square to get enough copper for the day. But the other thing is you want to make sure you are hydrated. Now, I just did a talk for my team yesterday on hydration, because it is so critical to health, and we are so very dehydrated in our society without even knowing it, because our technology really dehydrates us. But that is how light travels in our body, through the water network. And so it's very critical that we are hydrated. But the timing of this is such that really you want to, at least for someone who says to me they want to give it a try, 3 months, 90 days is the minimum. The research shows 97% of people see an effect by 90 days. And so when people say to me they want to try it for a month, I actually tell them not to bother.
And
Because
I do the same thing.
yeah. Because, if you went to your doctor and he said, well, you have to get on these pills for a certain period. And you're like, no, I'm just going to try 5 days or 10 days. You wouldn't do that. Right. And the body, again, takes time. We have to have patience, which we are just not used to nowadays. But really, to get full reactivation of your stem cells, you want to commit, not just try, but commit to at least a month for every decade that you've been alive on the planet, or whatever your goal is for what issue you want to resolve. Or if you're like me, like I shared at the beginning, I'm all about prevention. I would rather have the quality of life and prevent what I have seen in the hospital than have to try to walk my way and work my way out of that. It is at the top of my list for tools to use. I tell everyone that I enroll as well that this is not a replacement for a healthy lifestyle, but it is the best, most natural tool, the most value that you can get, the simplest thing that you can use. I know I've tried a lot of holistic things, especially since 2020, and they take time, they take effort. Sometimes they're complicated. This is a patch you stick on your body in the morning, you wear it for 12 hours, you take it off after 12 hours, and it's done. It's faster than brushing your teeth. It's literally the easiest, most simplest thing you can do for your health, in my opinion, in this day and age. And the last thing that I want to say before, if you want to take over, Danny, is I also get the question from people, well, I'm healthy. Why do I need this? I don't need this patch because I'm healthy. And to that, I say, one thing that I've heard a lot of times in the hospital too is I was healthy for 20 years and then suddenly overnight I got sick. It's not the way it works. It's like an iceberg. You don't see anything happening below the water until it pokes through. So there's a lot of things going on inside our body, and the modern world that we live in today, unfortunately, is not conducive to health without some kind of support. We are being bombarded by toxins, poisons, electromagnetic frequencies in our food, water, air, all over the place that we cannot see or fathom. Our body needs the support. And yeah, this is the support that I feel everyone can use and everyone should